There hasn't been a whole lot to talk about in spring recruiting season, but we finally have something to discuss. A transfer coming into the Auburn football team for the 2022 season. Let's talk about who they are and how it will affect the Auburn football team going forward this season. But before we do that, I want to welcome you back to the channel. Whether you're a member of the Auburn family or a fan of another persuasion, we appreciate you hanging out with us. This is the E2C Network where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the content, and thank you to members of our booster club like Felix Gonzalez who help produce videos like this. There's a lot of fans out there getting really eager to see Auburn's recruiting pick up over this late spring and into summer. And while I won't sit here and say that we're going to see a ton of that, I do expect it to start picking up a little bit. And this is the case with what we've just seen in this last day with a brand new transfer deciding to come to Auburn. Now, let's just be honest. Most people are putting a lot of their focus in on, are we going to bring in a transfer offensive lineman? I don't think that's the case when you see who's on the roster. Don't think it's really that much necessary, even if we've not been happy with the overall performance of who's been here on the offensive line going forward. And then there's a lot of people who want us to get even more progress on the 2023 recruiting class. And yes, I think those are great things. But here's an area where a lot of people have seen concern, and that is with the wide receiver group. Well, that is who we're adding here with transfer from the Miami Hurricanes, Dazalin Worsham. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm trying to get better at that. But he's transferring in from the Hurricanes. Now, they're going through a little bit of a similar story as Auburn has gone through about maybe a year ago. They're going through a transition of a new head coach. There's players deciding that if they want to be part of this new program. And that kind of feels like the case here with Worsham, who went down there for a different head coach, and now a new guy is coming in deciding if you fit into the system, if you're going to have playing time. It makes sense for him to seek something out if he doesn't feel like it's a good fit. And it makes even more sense for him to come back home to Alabama, being a Birmingham native and a former player at Hewitt-Trussville High School. So you can see the similarities between what he is going through and maybe what some other players, when you talk about Auburn, are going through with Kobe Hudson and others who have decided to move off at the wide receiver position because the fit just wasn't right. This time, though, Auburn is the beneficiary of it. Now let's talk a little bit about the transfer himself, some things that we know about him. Obviously, I've already mentioned that he was from Hewitt-Trussville, Birmingham native. So it makes a lot of sense if you're going to transfer somewhere, come on back home. We've actually seen this happen a lot this cycle for Auburn with a lot of guys coming back, such as a Robbie Ashford, all the way over from Oregon. But again, he is also a native of Alabama. Makes sense if you're going to transfer somewhere, go back where you have at least closer relatives, closer ties to. So I really like the move for Dazalin if this is something that he truly thinks where he can have a better opportunity here at Auburn. Now, depending on which recruiting site you look at, you'll see him listed as a former 3-star, 4-star. The rankings don't really matter. It matters what you do with the rankings more than what you actually are at the time of you being recruited or transferring. But that's what he would be listed at. His measurables are he's 6 foot, 185 pounds. Pretty consistent with what you see with a lot of college players, at least at that point in their careers. Now, he's technically played 2 years at Miami, but he only played 1 game during that time, so obviously he didn't play one of those years, which is odd because basically what I'm seeing written, he has all 4 years of eligibility left. And I think that's true if you think about the whole COVID extra year that everybody gets, basically that was in college at the time that all that happened. So he could be here for quite some time, which could be of a huge benefit for Auburn. In high school, he was one of the most decorated and most productive wide receivers at that time. Now, obviously, some time has changed since then, but you can see that the talent is there, and when you have the connection here back in Alabama, it could be a match made in heaven for him and the Auburn Tigers. Now, what does it mean for the team going forward? Well, obviously, it helps with depth overall at the wide receiver position. We did have a few people leave over the past couple of years. Good or bad, I don't know. You make your own choices on that. But it is going to help with depth and competition. It's kind of the same thing that we were talking about a lot when people were discussing the prospect of TJ Finley coming in with Bo Nix as the quarterback last year. Competition makes everybody better. And I think filling that room up with a lot of guys who have the talent that just hasn't been realized yet, it's going to continue to force pressure into that situation to force the best out onto the field and earn that playing time. So I don't think Dazalin is going to come in right away and be a starter. To be honest, he's got a short amount of time to do all that. just being, here in the spring and not too many months away till the season starts. But I do think that he can have the opportunity to earn significant amount of playing time, even if it's not a starting position here at Auburn, because pretty much everything's wide open right now. And the other angle of this I'm thinking about is he could be one of the leaders for this room going forward. I don't think anybody's going to argue that Cedric Jackson isn't the leader of that unit right now, just by the sheer nature of him being an upperclassman, a senior at this point. But I also think that him having connections to Alabama, and obviously who your name belongs to, or you're part of that family, it kind of gives you a little bit almost of that, having that leadership clout. And not that Dazalin has anything like that, but being a guy from Alabama, being a guy that has all this eligibility left, and that is not highly thought of as of this moment, he could be the guy that comes in, solidifies himself this year as part of the program, and then when we lose some of these guys the next year, maybe like a Cedric Jackson, he steps up and becomes a leader. Just a thought. I don't know the kid well enough to think he's got that in him, but that's the scenario I could see happening. So that's the news of a brand new transfer coming to Auburn. I want to know what you think about it now in the comments section below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think he'll be playing early and often? Let's keep that conversation going down there. If you enjoyed this type of content, please do help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more from us, be sure to hit the subscribe along with the notification bell so you don't miss any uploads or live streams. There's ways to help support our content listed in the description, such as becoming a channel member here by hitting that join button for $1 a month, or you can head over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the Booster Club to get yourself some more perks as well. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks War Eagle.